I would say we can go on and get started. Is it recording? Yes, it is. It's live on Facebook as well,
Okay.
through the Black Caucus of the American Library Association's homepage on Facebook. So you can also view this on Facebook simultaneously.
Got
The
you.
recording
Okay.
will also be there.
All right. Cool. Welcome everyone to our webinar, Working Together, How Can Public and School Librarians Work Together? My name is Karen Lemons. I'm the School Library Committee Chair under the umbrella of the Services to Children and Families of African Descent Committee. I'm a school librarian at Detroit School of Arts in Detroit, Michigan. I want to welcome you and say thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time to learn how public and school librarians can work together to do phenomenal things with students and the community. And without further ado, I do want to make just one brief announcement. The Black Caucus, the Children's Committee, the Black Caucus hosts or sponsors a Reading is Grand grant. It was a family literacy initiative established by past President Dr. Camilla Aliter, who allocated some funds for family literacy to all the ethnic caucuses. And the Black Caucus particularly chose the grandparents aspect of the family literacy because we recognize the research was showing that grandparents are now being caretakers for grandchildren and that they need support in literacy, development, expansion, enhancement to their children. So it is open to all types of libraries. However, one of the applicants must be a Black Caucus member. The award is currently $500. And the program must meet certain criteria and be implemented in September. In September, particularly because September, the second Sunday of September is Grandparents' Day. So we usually like to have the program done in September. The request for proposals and other information will be emailed through the Black Caucus listserv, either in March or April. And we do have to probably tweak it this year because most of the time the programs have been face-to-face. With the uncertainty of COVID and the vaccination, we're not sure if this is still going to happen. I like to be hopeful and say, yeah, by September we'll be face-to-face. I'm no mind reader and no prophet. So I remain hopeful, but we are probably going to include some opportunities for virtual type programs as well. So start looking for that in the emails, probably, like I say, around March or April. And the deadline is usually sometime in May. That gives us time to review the proposals and then make a formal announcement in June. So without further ado, I will turn it over to our fabulous moderator, Danielle Baker. Take it away, Danielle.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the BCALA School. We're the School Librarian Committee, and I am so excited that we have both our public librarians and our school librarians here today. We're going to be talking about how our public and our school librarians can support each other, especially during this time of the COVID and our remote learning. So this is something that we have 5 wonderful panelists here, and they're going to speak to us today regarding working together both with public and school librarians. So the first person that the next we would like to also talk about our list. We will have question and answers. If you want to ask a question, please feel free to put it in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen for that, if you want to ask any specific questions to the panelists. All right. Well, thank you. And I said, welcome. Welcome. And also in the chat, make sure you shout out to what town you're from and what school or what public library you're coming in for. I see we have a lot of participants today. So I just also wanted to basically say that we're going to be providing later on, if you provide in the chat your email address, we'll be sending you all our BCALA book list. And we have more than 105 wonderful African American Best of the Best book list. So that'll be coming soon. So if you would be able to put your name and your email address in the chat room, that would be great, and you'll receive that later on. All right. So the first panelist that we have is our own. She's our BCALA Public Librarian Committee member, and she's the chair. Her name is Tamala Chambers. Welcome, Tamala.
Thank you again for the introduction, Christina. Again, my name is Tamala Chambers, and I am currently the Children's Department Manager at the Woodson Regional Library, which is one of 3 regional libraries located in the city of Chicago under the Chicago Public Library umbrella. Prior to my position there, I was a teacher librarian in Chicago for Chicago Public Schools. 1 year as elementary and 7 years as a high school librarian. And then before that, I served as a children's librarian and a library associate for the Chicago Public Library. So as you can see, I really, really enjoy working with children in libraries, and I have been doing so for almost 20 years. So as a children's library associate or librarian, I collaborated with the school librarians to make sure that all of the children got library cards, promote the Summer Learning Challenge, do book talks and reading encouragement, and inform families about library services and programs. But central to this work was getting information about the curriculum to support assignments after school. I can't tell you how many times people would come in, or families like parents and kids, and they would come in with assignments, and they would, not necessarily have all of the information, but it really helped to have that link to the school librarian so that I can get more so I can serve them. So, why should school and public libraries work together? We serve the same clientele. So I'm a children's librarian, and we also have a division in Chicago where there are children's librarians and teen librarians. So children's librarians serve children and their families from birth to age 13 or 8th grade, as I like to say, because sometimes we have some children who are outside of that age range, so we may skew a little older. And then the teen librarians serve ages 14 through 19 or 9th through 12th grade. Sometimes youth librarians serve both, ages 0 to 18. And the programs and services offered through the public libraries are designed with the developmental needs of children and teens in mind, and of course the general public. And the public library's information and services and resources reflect the needs of the community in which it's situated. And this means being in tune and attentive to the changes in the neighborhood, resources available, community organizations, and of course the schools. So public and school librarians share a common goal of encouraging our young people to read for pleasure and information, and the development of information literate young people. Next slide, please. So what are the benefits of working together? Again, youth services encompassing both children and teens. Librarians oftentimes develop relationships with the children and teens that visit the library regularly to get materials, do homework, hang out with friends, and or attend programs. Inviting a public librarian into your library media program as a resource helps to bolster the lessons learned in library class and sends the message that libraries are the place to go for authoritative information, explore their interests, and get on the path to lifelong learning. And I'll tell you a secret, the kids think we all know each other anyway.
Okay, it seems like we're having some technical difficulties right now. If everyone could please hold, we are going to see if we could restore connectivity. Thank you in advance for your patience.
I am sorry for that disruption. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, hon.
Okay. So I was explaining about how the 8th grade students wanted to have their 8th grade picnic there. This is, just before COVID hit, but they were asking if they could have their picnic there. And I just think that it really speaks to the library and the staff there as being trusted adults and a space in the community. The Chicago Public Library has a program called The Teacher in the Library, in which a licensed teacher is staffed after school to provide homework assistance. So in addition, the public library has resources and materials in both print and digital to support what the kids and teens are learning. We've had program participants take things that they've done in the library or things that they've learned back to school and vice versa. So sometimes we're having a program and the kids will say, oh, we learned that in school. So again, the kids are naturally kind of the bridge between the two of us. So we should take advantage of it. Next slide, please. So again, youth librarians provide learning opportunities that get kids ready for school and complement in-school learning. So we have preschool story times and play place learning initiatives that give pre-reading skills so that they are ready once they get to school. And then we also provide learning opportunities that reinforce, as I just stated, through activities that foster inquiry, communication, creativity, collaboration, and information literacy. Public libraries also serve the whole family. So we often work with other community organizations to provide assistance for kids and families in their need. So we benefit from you all. You all having a relationship with the school librarians helps us to be really in tune with the families that we serve. So thank you for listening. Sorry about the technology blip, and I will pass the mic, so to speak, to Miriam. Thank you again.
Hi, all. I'm a little bit nervous, but hi, my name is Mariel Matthews. Currently, I'm a children's librarian with the New York Public Library, and I'm going to share some helpful resources and tips. Next slide, please. First tip, obtain a library card from your local public library where you work. Second tip, ask if there is an educator card. Yes, they're two different things. The advantage of an educator card is, especially at the New York Public Library, is you can borrow up to 100 items, you can reserve up to 50 items, and you could check out materials for a loan period of 60 days. Another resource, children's librarians. Find us. We are willing to collaborate with everything, including story times, class visits, virtually and physically. We can provide professional development regarding new services that we have at the library, and creating and collaborating with workshops about the library and its services for families and other educators. Another resource and another conduit is school librarians can be the conduit between teachers, parent coordinators with us. So we can further help the classes that they're teaching. And another resource is the actual like website to our public libraries. So I know that Chicago Public Library has a toolkit to help with other website and digital resources. So does NYPL. Next slide, please. So I wanted to touch on digital resources for reading, read-alongs, and audiobooks for kids. These are resources that have been chosen because they have a video, audio, and or some sort of interactive component. Students with disabilities, slow readers, or reluctant readers can use easily, can be accessed wherever the students can access Wi-Fi, and this is due to the pandemic, and have their actual library cards. Some of these resources that you may want to consider using with your school or for your school district or your public libraries, you may want to consider making the investment in providing it for your community. So one thing is TumbleBooks, Tumble Math for pre-K to 6th grade. It's a large collection of materials that it includes animated picture books, chapter books, videos, nonfiction material, and graphic novels. I like that it's in multiple languages, in English, French, and Spanish. I also like the Flicks series, which is also an audio visual series that supports learning for pre-K to 9th grade. Book Flicks is fiction focused. True Flicks, is non-fiction focused. Freedom Flicks is military focused, and Science Flicks is science focused. All those informations is great, also a great way for kids to start to learn how to research. Storyline, pre-K to 5th grade. Celebrities are reading, like I have a recorded reading books to the audience, and children can read along with it. It's endorsed with ALA and it's award winning. Our Story, from We Need Diverse Books. It's also, you can access materials for people of color. Next slide, please. Digital resources for educators. All of the following digital resources have a lesson plan component aspect to them. So for instance, Explora, lesson plans with access to full text and database information included. So Scholastic Teachables, lesson plans that are aligned with state standards. PBS Learning, which is awesome as well, access to learning materials and videos from PBS. Teachers of various subjects create lesson plans with worksheets that could be used in the classroom. Next slide, please. Digital resources for research, including articles and databases. Okay, so yes, I put a couple of the science flicks and the flicks on it back on it again, but I wanted to point out Credo Reference. Credo Reference provides access to good information, and it gives multiple points for a subject or a point that a student wants to make, from articles to images to just references, but it's good information. And sometimes with our students who are learning how to research, it gives multiple points of reference when both public librarians and school librarians are teaching it. So it gives multiple points and multiple ways. And 4, next slide, please. Thank you. In conclusion, ebooks. The New York Public Library has something called Simply E. And that's our ebook application. Patrons can use their electronic library cards and place holds on it. Libby app, it's amazing. It's similar to Simply E, but you can use NYPL, Brooklyn, you can use multiple libraries. I know about this due to being on the Best Books Committee for 2020 for NYPL, and I was able to access multiple information. And the last thing I want to say is, if you don't know about Edelweiss or NetGalley, they're amazing. You can look for future upcoming public works. I thank you very much. There's so many more. There's so much. Are there any other resources out there? Yes, but I only had 7 to 8 minutes. I thank you all. And I'm going to hand it off to the next speaker.
Hello, everybody's hearing me all right? All right, so my name is Apetorishe Adefalalu, but I go by Rishe. I'm another member of the Public Librarian Committee for the Black Caucus, and I'm currently a children's librarian at the Boston Public Library. Before that, I was the head of teen services at the Inglewood Public Library in Inglewood, California. And before that, not too long before that, I was finishing up my library degree from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign as a student teacher in Chicago. I spent a couple months at the Chicago Vocational Career Academy and a couple at the Joshua D. Kershaw Elementary School. And I say that just as a example of kind of where my experience comes from in terms of being on the two sides of the field we're discussing today, the school side and the public librarian side. So next slide, please. So I am on the earlier side of my career, and as such, I thought it would be a little appropriate for me to discuss kind of professional development and networking, which is really a great way of making up for what we, newer librarians might not have as much of in terms of personal experience. It's all right because we can always build off of the wisdom and experience of our colleagues. And as a example of that, I'm actually here because of that sort of thing. Well, and partly, when I was student teaching, one of the school librarians I worked under was actually Miss Chambers. And it's through that relationship, through that connection that we maintained after that, that I came to be here today. So that's just to say professional development and networking really brings a lot of opportunities for you to build yourself as a professional and really increase your ability to do good work in the field. Next click, please. So the easiest way to get into the professional network is by joining library associations. Obviously, the Black Caucus is a great one that you should join as well. Others that deal a little more directly with school and youth services are the Young Adult Library Services Association, YALSA, the Association for Library Services to Children, ALSC, the American Association of School Libraries, AASL, and also the Public Library Association. Of course, there are many, many more. You can always find them fairly easily. These are all branch off from the American Library Association, though. So through that website, you can find them, or even just through a Google search. It isn't too difficult to find library associations. Next click, please. But even if you don't become a dues paying member of all these associations, they still have a lot of resources that you can use on their websites. If you were to go to them, a lot of them have a search bar, and you can use that to find different articles, toolkits, blog posts, and a lot of other information on school and public library partnerships specifically. Next click, please. So one example of that is the Interdivisional Committee on School/Public Library Collaboration, which is made up of members from YALSA, ALSC, and AASL. And it's a fairly newer committee, but they've been working to put together resources specifically to promote partnerships between school librarians and public librarians. A couple of those, I believe we have links to put into the chat. One is the School Library and Public Library Collaboration Toolkit, which is a PDF document that gives some step-by-step instructions or guidance and advice on how to build relationships between school libraries and public libraries, things about just even who to contact, how to organize your communications, who to schedule meetings with, both between the two institutions and internally. A lot of really great advice that helps to give a foundation for starting something like this, or if you already have something, just building it up even further. They also have a list called the School/Public Library Cooperative Programs, and it lists a lot of successful partnerships that have happened between school and public librarians. And it even includes, is organized by the type of program, and also gives a brief description of how it went. And there's also contact information. So if you see something that you like and want to know more about how you could do it yourself, you can email the librarian or librarians who were involved and even get that more direct feedback or guidance on how to do the same thing. In a similar vein, next click, please. It's great to take advantage of mailing lists that a lot of the associations have, and also connecting with other librarians through social media, things like Twitter, Instagram, and Discord. Another thing we have a link for is a Discord group called Connecting Librarians. I'm not sure how long it's been around, but I found out about it during this pandemic. And there are literally hundreds of librarians in this Discord server. I'm not sure if everyone's used Discord yet, but it's a not necessarily newer, but one that is a social media platform that is getting a lot more attention these days. And on there, you can, similarly to sort of a mailing list, but a little bit more in an instant messaging style, ask questions to other librarians. There's also library information science students on there and other library staff. And it's sectioned out into different categories based on what kind of librarianship. So there's teens, school, public, what have you, children's. And it's really just a way of crowdsourcing, brainstorming, group thinking, any ideas that you have or any ideas that you're wanting to learn more about. And it's very responsive. You can ask a question and probably get an answer, maybe in a couple of hours. So it's very, very useful and a very cool new way for you to get that kind of direct information. Next click, please. And lastly, it was just ask somebody, you've got probably, I would hope, a lot of colleagues around, maybe not physically around, but some way that you can get in touch with them, other people you work with. And likely someone might have an idea or might know someone else who has an idea that can help you to figure out your steps into creating a strong school and public library relationship. So really the theme of this section of the presentation is just getting together and communicating, building on our own or each other's expertise. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for all that information that our public librarians have shared. We next have our school librarians. Both Christina and Christopher will be bringing information. And again, for those that come in late, please in the chat, put in your name and your email address if you want the best of the best from the BCALA, our book list that we have 105 books for African American students that are also written by the African American authors as well as illustrators. So our first school librarian is Christina. Christina Gavin, welcome.
Hi there, can we go to the next slide? My name is Christina Gavin. I am one of the campus librarians at Herbert H. Lehman Educational Campus in the Northeast Bronx, where we serve 6 public New York City Department of Education schools. I have the privilege of working along with another librarian who has a background in working in public libraries. In New York City, we are particularly lucky that we have a program called My Library NYC. Actually, Shantae Burns-Simpson, who is the current president of BCALA, is the head of this program, and it's a partnership between the New York City Department of Education and the 3 New York City public library systems. So Brooklyn Public Library, New York Public Library, and Queens Public Library. Any one of the 1,800 schools in New York City that has public schools that has a librarian is able to participate. And it's the largest public and school library partnership in the country that allows teachers have access to incredible amounts of resources that otherwise wouldn't be possible. They offer special programming and events, professional development, access to digital databases like Mariel was mentioning. And it's really a great opportunity that we have. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some other things that, this is a national webinar, not everyone's in New York City. So if we can go to the next slide. Some ideas for, regardless of where in the world you are, what type of library you have access to, school librarians can get to know their public libraries. In most larger cities and even the suburbs, a lot of times there are more than one person working at the public library. So figure out who's who in the library works with kids, teens, and families. What resources and programming does the library offer? If I, as the school librarian, don't have any idea what the public library is offering, how can I promote that and share that information with my students? Where my library is located, there are 3 branches of New York Public Library that are pretty nearby. So I'd speak to the librarians there, especially during normal non-pandemic times. They will email me or bring flyers about special events that are happening there, and I can promote those to my students because they're kind of captive audience. They're in school all day. They come to the library and we can put up the flyers and they'll see them and they can participate when they're out of school time. Share information with the public librarians. What time do your classes end? You don't want them to be setting up team programs while all of your kids should still be in school. Does your school have special days where kids aren't there? Not necessarily a public federal holiday, but maybe a no school day. That might be a day that the public library can offer something special for students. What programs and clubs are happening at your school? Is there an overlap? Or are there holes that your school isn't offering that you could talk to the public library about providing? What interests have your students expressed? Think about this is something collaborative. How can you help each other? Mariel mentioned earlier the Overdrive app. Overdrive also has a new product called Sora, which is the school version of its Libby app. So if your public library uses Overdrive and you start purchasing books in Sora, that's a really, really great way to get students on board because they can add your local public libraries and access your school collection and the public library at the same time. You go to the next slide. And it's also good for staff because you can then get your teachers on board and they can promote it to your students. One idea that you can do is invite your public librarians to the parent-teacher conference. You will have, again, a captive audience. Families will be there, sometimes from grandparents down to babies, and the public librarians will be able to share information about what they offer, sign people up for library cards on the spot. You can give away books, give away swag, promote special programming. And that way, regardless, maybe a family comes in with multiple children and not all of them, we know, thinking about the national landscape, not every school has a public school librarian, which is sad, but you're presenting this information can be a subtle form of advocacy. So parents might see, hey, one of my children goes to this school with this great library and all these excellent resources, but my other child doesn't have that opportunity. Get your parents on board so they can help you advocate for school libraries. Can we go to the next slide? Another idea would be to invite the public librarians to provide professional development for your teachers. When your teachers get involved with the library as active patrons, they're going to be modeling reading, they're going to be excited about what the library has to offer. The library might also offer some pedagogical resources that are specific that could be valuable to your classroom teachers. But if your teachers don't know about that information, like that's where you can come in as the school librarian. You have access to all of these teachers. The teachers have access to all of their students and classes. And this will be like a great way for a school librarian to help promote what the public library has to offer. We always hear the saying, libraries are for everyone. And this is a way that you can truly make that a reality in your own school, get your school community focused on libraries. Can we go to the next slide? Some other ideas are think about the opportunities for students. In my school, we have a lot of students who are in National Honor Society and need community service. Certain schools in the campus have a community service requirement for graduation, so students need to volunteer in some way. And then there's also just a lot of students who are like the library fan club that want to be helpers. So I can train students to work in the library in my library, and then they can go to the public library and volunteer. They could go to the public library and volunteer and train there. And usually, again, the public library might have more than one or two people working there. So they might be able to provide a little bit more robust training. And then your students can generalize the skills and bring what they've learned at the public library back to your school. And besides the fact that like you have a helping hand, or the public library would have a helping hand, if you have students who really love the library, like it might not have occurred to them that this could be a career path. If we think about the disproportionality in terms of racial and ethnic background in librarians are still 80% white, the field. So if I think about my school, it's not 80% white. This is a great opportunity for me to recruit young librarians of color and get them excited about the possibilities of libraries. You can talk to your students about how you love your job. Do they notice any differences between the public library and the school library? You can invite public librarians to your school career days. You can participate in school career days yourself. Can we go to the next slide? Some other ideas, special events. I know that Christopher is going to talk a little bit more about this, but the public library often has access to authors, so they could maybe host an author visit at your site. Sometimes they do special cool programming. I remember before my co-librarian worked with me, she was the public librarian in nearby at another school I was working at. And she came to my school one day. She was had all the kids sign up for library card applications, and she brought all the cards to them. And she was talking about like a special event that they were going to do where a shelter dog was going to come to the library, and the kids could like go play with the shelter dog and write a bio for the dog to get adopted. And I couldn't bring a shelter dog to the school. It was not allowed, but the students were so excited about that. So maybe there are certain things that for insurance reasons or whatever the case, the public library can do that you can't do. Collaborate, figure those things out, get your students excited about them. You can host a family literacy night. Another colleague used Donors Choose to get a lot of Kindles and auctioned or raffled them off to families, and then had the public librarians come in and present from board books up to young adult, what families can be reading, what adults can be reading, what children can be reading. You could also have the public librarian come in and host a program at your school. So hopefully these ideas can be helpful.
Thank you, Christina. That was great information. Now we have Christopher. If Christopher can come on, and we have a couple of questions, and if you can put them in the Q&A, that would be easier for us to be able to answer. Thank you. Good evening, Christopher, and welcome.
Hello, good evening. Good evening. My name is Christopher Stewart, and I am the high school librarian at Bell High School located in Washington, D.C. And Columbia Heights Education Campus, where we also have a middle school, a great middle school librarian as well. Next slide, please. So as we think about this relationship between public librarian and school media specialist, we have to think about collaborating and serving our students, the importance of space and relationship. So I have not been in my space since March, but I am definitely excited to go back when it's safe and only when it's safe. But this is my library here. To the left, you see the larger space, and to the right, you actually see our coffee table. This space is where we have a lot of events, author events, but we have public librarians come in and talk to students and do library card signups and play games. And so that relationship is built. So when the school doors close, they can actually go right down the street, which is only 2 blocks away, and go to the public library. So important. Next slide, please. So when we think about the mission and vision of a library, we have to think about space, but we also have to think about what we are giving not only our students, but guardians, parents, and educators and community members, because we're all working together. So the mission of the Bell High School Library is to, again, not only serve the students, but their parents and educators, wanting them to be effective users of information and also using their imagination in a big way. We want them to be ethical researchers. And this includes giving them the tools, but also realizing that we don't have all the tools. So we can use our public librarians to really give even a more robust resources that are available. So to the left, you will see the Peace and Love Room that was created about 1.5 years ago, which is very popular. We actually, in the back, we have a clothing kind of drive kind of situation where students can get, you just see hangers there right now, actually, but because all the clothes are gone, but they can get clothes. So if they needed pants or they need shoes, we usually have shoes there, or belts. They can get it right in the library, in the school library, and they do not have to return these items. So in this space as well, we show documentaries, but we also have public librarians come and sometimes just chill and relax and have conversation. To the right, you'll see students as well as myself. We were actually at a men's homeless shelter located in Washington, D.C., where we started a small library for them. They did not have a library at this shelter that had been open roughly 10 years. Students were so excited. They chose the books for them. They delivered the books. And these books were in part due to, of course, an amazing library program in DC, but also public librarians who donated books so we can have this shelter, this library rather, at the shelter. So this collaboration is so fierce, it's so important, because you don't know what you may end up doing to change the world and change the lives of students. They never thought in their wildest dreams that they would be opening, a library and a shelter with books from DC Public Schools and also DC Public Library. Next slide, please. So of course, author events. So to the left, you'll see an author event with Jason Reynolds. This was located at the public library right next to the school. And I mean, we had roughly 2-3 middle schoolers and 2-3 high schoolers go. And they also received new books from Jason Reynolds that were signed, and they got a chance to talk to him too. I mean, you just can't beat that. And it was such a special event because oftentimes, as you all know, for schools, you're in your school community. And especially if you live in your school community, you usually don't venture out. Well, they had over 7 schools that were represented in this event. So students were able to collaborate a little bit, talk to each other, even if they didn't know each other, in Northwest, Southwest, Southeast. Very, very awesome. Brunch and book discussion with students and staff at the public library. So this was at a public library in Southwest, which was definitely about 45 minutes down the street in traffic. We did a brunch and book discussion. So this is something that I did when I was working in the public library. I brought it over to the public schools. Students loved it. So you see students here, but you also see staff and also a community member. So we gave out free food and books, and it was just a great opportunity for us to collaborate. We stayed there for like 2 hours and just talking to the community. Some students came in from that community, and our 2 seniors here, previous seniors, they talked to them about school. and the importance of reading. So you get the students to volunteer and see the importance of public libraries and school libraries collaboration. It makes for a beautiful ending. Next slide, please. So the connection. So about 2 years ago, I created a library website because I thought it was so important for students, staff, as well as parents to be able to go to one particular location to access great information. So this is the student tab where, of course, you have the library catalog, you have resources, you have databases, and under databases, as well as the resources, it gives links to the public library. So the public library is this amazing place where you're not only connecting as far as the physical space, but you can actually present in when you're going into classes, you can present the importance of these resources that are all free. Many of them require a library card, but also there's a link on that student tab where you can get your library card within 2 minutes. Next slide, please. So this is one of the links, the DC Public Library Go Digital. So this Go Digital, again, all these free databases, if you are located in Washington, DC, which our students are, then some of them you need a library card for full access. Many of them you don't. Many of them you don't. So, and because I have that public library experience, I can go through it with them and also bring it to the school library, which is really awesome. Next slide, please. So hitting the streets and ending book apartheid. I know, book apartheid, what? But when you listen to stories or you read articles, you often hear about book deserts, right? You hear about these places and spaces that don't have books, don't have bookstores, maybe not even have a public library. That's devastating. Too often though, when you see a book desert or book apartheid, it's also a food desert or food apartheid. So when we think about desert, that's something that is not man or human made. But when we think of apartheid, that is human made. So that means that we can end a book apartheid. We can't end a book desert. It's something that's not made, so to speak. I mean, it's already created. But book apartheid, oh, we can end that. Absolutely, by providing resources and books and text and placing it in the hands of our babies and also our community. So to the left, you see a table set up, just set up a lot of water, juice, snacks that I got from the grocery store, books galore, and fruit, right? I mean, we had over 30, 40 people come. We do this every month in different places throughout the city. To the right, that was at a public library, gave out blankets, fruit, books. Literally, at the end of it, everything goes. There is nothing left. People are hungry for books, but they're also hungry for great food too, right? So important to make sure that we're ending book apartheid, hitting the streets, and being creative. And you notice they all had a mask on, right? Absolutely, that is a requirement. Next slide, please. So book delivery service, we're also doing that, but only in collaboration. It is only by the relationship that has been built with public librarians that I've been able to do a book delivery service, mailing books, but also going around, driving to students' houses and giving them books, hand sanitizer, and waters, right? So in one time a couple months ago, a buddy of mine from the public library, they came with me and they couldn't believe how many people wanted these books. They understood that with the public library being shut down, they couldn't they couldn't get the books like they wanted to get them. It was through a service, and some didn't necessarily have the capability as far as online to be able to do what they wanted to do to get the books. But this is a service where, you know, you just indicate you want it, it's going out to your address, or it's being delivered to you. Next slide, please. And the brunch and book discussion grab, please wear your mask. The next one is December 9th, and that's at the William O. Lockridge Bellevue Library, and also 16th, and that's in front of our school, Columbia Heights Education Campus, 2:30. We were built for this. We can do this. We can adapt. Next slide. This is my beautiful family. Please stay in touch. Twitter, email, as well as website. Absolute peace, love, and justice. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Christopher. And I would like for the panelists to look at the question in the chat room. Cheryl Wolf says, I would love to hear some success stories of getting families on board with getting and using their public library cards in a far-reaching way, either from the public or the school librarian. Would you please help her with that question, because she works with pre-K through 5. And she says most of her students cannot be independent public library users. So if someone can answer that question and help her out. Tamla?
So I'll take a crack at it. So I know I mentioned earlier when I was a school librarian, we had this very grand plan, the counselor and I, where we had them include a library card as part of their school supplies. So that was part of freshman orientation. And as part of freshman orientation, you had to come in and you had to get all of these vital forms. You had to get your schedule, you do your ID picture. And then one of the final things you had to do was get your library card. And the kids, they automatically assume like this is what I needed to be successful in high school. So I would say maybe add it as a school supply item and just kind of, embed it in there and just reinforce that, this is a tool that you're going to need to be successful. And I think the families will gravitate toward that.
Thank you very much. I know it's always challenging with our pre-K through 5 before middle school because they are not independent library users. Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming. And we also now have Stacy. If Stacy would be able to come on. And remember, Stacy?
Yes, I'm here. I'm ready. I'm sorry.
Okay, Stacy's a part of the BCALA membership.
Okay. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, let's go together. That's a great African proverb. Your participation this evening is greatly appreciated. It is my hope that you are better equipped to start establishing relationships with your local, public, and school libraries. I have utilized, as a school librarian, I have utilized our public library. I've been able to have a visiting award-winning author in my library, as well as have the public library representation at our literacy night. Our charge and mission for the public and school library committees within the Black Caucus of American Library Association, BCALA, serves as an advocate for the development, promotion, and improvement of school library services and resources to the African American K through 12 school community. Since joining, I've been inspired by my fellow school librarians. I've gained a wealth of information, and it has opened doors for collaboration and leadership opportunities. This group considers best teaching practices, possesses a broad range of diverse literary expertise, and promotes technology that supports career and college readiness for the 21st century learner. Together, we stand as a group of professional librarians with an overarching concern, which is to support the needs of our student population by providing resources for their academic needs and interests. Furthermore, it is our calling to understand that together we will go far. If you are interested in joining us, you can find the information. Our mission statement is listed here, as well as our vision statement. I would just like to briefly mention a few benefits of membership. You get there's a listserv of membership. You get discounts on BCALA and NCAAL conferences. There's opportunity for volunteer work, and as I mentioned, the development of leadership skills. You have several networking opportunities, and you have that opportunity to share your area of expertise with other librarians who look just like us. Please see the link up top if you are interested in joining us, and please continue to support us in any way that you can. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you, Stacy. And again, the Black Caucus American Library Association wants to thank you. Thank you for coming out this evening. And again, if you had not done so, please make sure you put your email address in the chat so that we will be able to send you our best of the best library selection for our students. Also, I just wanted to quickly say welcome. Welcome to our AASL current president, Kathy Carroll. So I want to say thank you for coming. And then we also have Melissa Jacobs. Melissa Jacobs is the New York City Public School Library Director. So I want to also say thank you very much for joining us. And again, welcome and good night.
Thank you for coming, all participants.